Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS value plays for this week's Fedex St. Jude Championship. Gonna go through the bottom end of the pricing this time and give you a few salary saving plays that can help you out for your large field lineups in terms of some salary flexibility and of course to go out there and get some much needed ownership leverage too. These four players for one reason or another are at least worth some consideration for your player pool this week and a lot to get into, so let's go ahead and just get this thing started right off the bat. First up this week, we've got ourselves Tom Kim, who is pretty much tailor-made for this kind of golf course. He didn't play at the Wyndham, didn't play at the 3M to end the year because he had a pretty solid standing heading into this week. But if he's going to make it the whole way to East Lake, Tom Kim's going to have to do damage this week or at the BMW. And given the kind of courses that he's going to have at his disposal, I think his best chance is going to be at this short, more positional kind of track at TPC Southwind. So a few things that are working for him, right? If you've seen my course breakdown, if you've seen some of the, different comp courses that I'm considering, you'll see that first off, Sedgefield is one of my top comps, a course that he's won at before, but a lot of these shorter Bermuda tracks, a Harbor Town, a Sea Island, a Players Championship where he's played well before, and a lot of tracks where we haven't seen him tee it up, but you'd have to imagine he's a good course fit, right? Tom Kim, much more of an accuracy than a distance guy off the tee, though he is getting slightly longer as time goes on, and then a really good iron player, right? Especially with those, short to mid irons. That is exactly what I'm looking for this week. In fact, if you take a look at my weighting over here, you can see that those mid to short irons are some of the more important proximity buckets that I'm considering. So I think that he's a really good fit for this kind of course, and the form is starting to come around. If we take a look at the shots gained, you can see the iron play is close to a stroke gained per round. If we zoom out a little bit, he's been pretty solid for quite some time, right? It's not just over the last month or so. Over the last 3 or 4 months, is gaining in both ball striking categories and a slight loser with the short game, which is what's been holding him back from being an elite tier golfer, competing week in and week out. But of course, his best 2 finishes of the year have been some of the recent finishes, right? A T2 at the Open, a T6 the week before that at the Scottish Open. And now that we get him back on Bermuda, a track that has proven to be really good for his game, whether it's the putting, around the green, everything has been better on Bermuda grass. Of course, the win with the Wyndham. I like his chances out there, right? Especially at a course that plays into his skill set. The one real issue here, and I'd be remiss not to talk about it, would of course be the injury concern. He's dealing with some sort of leg injury. He's got the wrist injury going on too at the KT tape. Feels like this guy's constantly got something going on. So every week it feels like there's some sort of new injury headline there. The latest, of course, is that little slip that he had at the Open, which forced him to nearly withdraw. So keep an eye on it. I'm kind of waiting for some insider information on it to see how he's handling it out there this week, but I'm assuming that he's going to be good to go, try and get after it at a course that fits his game. And considering that he still finished in second place there at the Open Championship with it, especially starting from way behind the pack like it did, he surged after the injury happened. I don't know if I'm going to overreact to it, right? He nearly won a damn major championship, all things considered. Next up, we've got Denny McCarthy at $7,500, and this is the perfect bounce back spot. It's a very similar track to Sedgefield. There's a reason why Denny McCarthy was 35% owned in GPPs last week, and because of that disappointment, that 35%, a good majority of them are not going to go back to Denny. So you're going to see likely some lower ownership here than you would see otherwise with that considered. A $7,500, the form even with that really isn't that bad over the last 36 rounds, where he's gaining across all 4 categories, over a stroke per round with the putter, still gaining with the approach play. And though over the last 12 measured rounds it hasn't been as good with the approach play, he's still gaining a ton of strokes with the putter, still gaining off the tee because he's accurate as hell out there. And pretty much just like a Tom Kim, right? You play Denny McCarthy at short tracks where Bermuda putting matters. He's one of the better Bermuda putters in the world. Him, a Sam Burns gained close to 3/4 of a stroke per round. And considering he's been in even better putting form of late, you'd have to think that he's going to, sustain that kind of form on his favorite surface of all the 4 major types. So I think it's a good bounce back spot. It should be much lower owned this time around than what we had last time because of the form. He did miss the cut there and the start before that. So I think a lot of people were willing to put the missed cut aside when it was just the single bad performance there at the major championship. But now that it's 2 missed cuts in a row, you are going to see the ownership start to tick down. So we'll have to, track the ownership, right? Anytime somebody comes in at 35% the week prior, we're definitely going to have to monitor it up to lock. But I'm assuming that Denny's going to be closer to like maybe the 10% mark this week, which if so, I will be looking to get to as a bounce back. I'll remind you guys, check out my Patreon if you're looking for all of my value plays this week. Everything that I'm taking, from $8,000 and below. And of course, to get access to everything on here that is blacked out. So that includes ownership, my entire player pool, all my modeling, projections, rankings, so on and so forth, and all my showdown and prop content. There's a link down in the description of this video. Helps me out with supporting the channel, of course, and gives you all of that insider access to go out there and help you with your process for DFS. There's a lot of aggregated stats on here. You get to see all of my exposure, which you don't have to go out there and copy, right? That's not really the idea. It's more so to give you the perspective on what I'm doing to go out there and then, of course, attack your own process. So check it out. It's a huge value. It's only $10 for the month. I'm not charging $50 to $100 like other services out there. And like I said, I bring the same, if not more value than a lot of those other sites. Next up, we've got Eric Cole. So going from the 7K range, now we're going to go for our last 2 plays down here to the 6K. And you're going to have to spend down here in the 6K this week. There's just too many premier options to take in this kind of a field that you're going to have to try and spend up a little bit, right? And as a result, you're going to want to spend down, right, to make those kind of lineups work. And I think Eric Cole is a prime target to go after to make those kind of builds work. I'll remind you guys, some of my key comp courses, right? They've got TPC Sawgrass. Eric Cole played pretty well there. PGA National was my #1 comp. Of course, he finished second there this year. You have RBC Heritage, Wyndham Championship. He was in contention last week. RSM Classic made the cut, played pretty well there during the fall swing. Eric Cole is made for a short Bermuda track. He gains 0.87 strokes per round putting on it, which is at least to my knowledge, I believe the best of anyone in this field, even better than a Burns, even better than a Denny McCarthy, believe it or not. Not a surprise that all 3 of those players are in my player pool this week, by the way. And all playing pretty solid golf. And Eric Cole, a very consistent golfer. In fact, has only missed, I believe here in 2023, like 4 or 5 cuts the entire season. If we take a look at the recent form, you'll see the T14 last week, T30, T60, T42. So it's been, showing that form of late. In terms of the shots gained metrics, this is what is most impressive about it, Eric Cole, is he's a damn good iron player and a really good putter. And that is the Xander Schauffele mold, right? If you saw my core plays video, I'm really big on the approach play and the putting. Off the tee, it's more about accuracy than anything. We'll get to that here in a second. But with the 2 main categories I'm looking at, right, he checks that box emphatically. I mean, he's gaining 2 strokes per round across those 2 categories. Off the tee, Eric Cole knows how to play a South Florida, wet kind of golf course with water everywhere. I know we're up in Memphis, but TPC Southwind, it looks like your typical Florida track, right? You've got water everywhere, those ticking time bombs to worry about. And for somebody of Eric Cole who's very familiar with how to handle that, I'm not worried about the 0.7 strokes lost per round off the tee, right? He'll figure out how to handle it. Maybe he'll, club down off the tee to make sure he's hitting it in the short stuff and lean into that iron play and the putting, which has just been absolutely electric. So love Eric Cole here, not a surprise. I feel like I talk up this guy every week and it just pays off every single week. Next up, we've got Adam Svenson, our last value play. And if you're looking for comp courses, oh boy, do I have a guy for you. First off, won the RSM Classic, so really good comp course history there. Top 10 finish last week at the Sedgefield. I believe, what was it, like a T7 finish for Svenny? Let's see, yeah, T7 finished last week. Let's see, what else do we got? Harbortown Golf Links. played pretty well at the RBC Heritage. Oh, Players Championship, you say, oh, another top 20 finish. PGA National nearly won the golf tournament at Honda a few years ago when Sepp Straka one was in contention. This guy, kind of like an Eric Cole, you play at a short Bermuda grass track. He just has all of his top end finishes there. I know the Bermuda grass putting stats aren't all that great, but he has had a few pop performances at them. And more than anything, it's just the ball striking is made for this kind of golf course. So it's really just a horses for courses kind of play with an Eric Cole and a Svenny down here. And at $6,700, it's also what you're getting to buy up top as a result of getting to an Adam Svenson. So recent form ranking, number 18 in the field. If we take a look at the ball striking stats, you'll see why I want to get here. Gaining across all 4 categories. That includes 0.6 strokes on approach, 0.4 with the putter, which again are the 2 main categories I'm hunkering down on. If we go to the last 36 rounds, so we zoom out here a little bit, the approach play gets a little bit worse. That's why the form's been a little bit inconsistent. He's had a quote-unquote down year right after the win, but still gaining with the putter and still gaining off the tee. So still getting it done with 2 of those top 3 categories. So, he's far from a for sure play. That's why he's down here in the 6K range. You're getting what you're paying for at a certain point, but with all the comp course history, with the kind of course fit that I'm looking for, definitely somebody that I'll be taking a shot on in my lineups this week. Alrighty guys, that is all I've got for my value plays this week. Before you hopping out of here, show me some love, hit that like button on the way out, and also comment down below who you're taking as your top value priced $8,000 and below on DraftKings. Would love to hear your thoughts. If I had to pick a favorite, it's definitely Eric Cole, and I feel like, when he's in my player pool, he ends up being one of my better pieces of value down low, and why wouldn't I ride it, right? It's another one of those short Bermuda tracks. It's another, kind of like a PGA National, kind of like a Sedgefield, where he doesn't have to worry all that much about off the tee. So I'll definitely go with Eric Cole. But let me know your thoughts down below. We'll have fades and sleepers dropping tomorrow. Also, our weekly live stream tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So stay tuned for those. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss those when they're dropping. And of course, bring any questions that you've got to the weekly live stream. There, Wednesday at 7 p.m. We'll be going through the weather, some chalk. We'll be going through some strategy notes, lineup construction, and of course some prop analysis too, to make sure we're ready to go out there and have ourselves a week. So looking forward to it. Hopefully we can go out there and find our names at some of the top of those GPPs. But until then, best of luck, and I'll catch you guys for the live stream on Wednesday.